Hiya, I'm Michelle. I'm the community team lead at Darlington at Recovery Connections. So I suppose I was actively using heroin for around 8 years, but I've probably been addicted to substances in some form since around about 14. I didn't use them properly, and then throughout my 20s I was addicted to party drugs and tablets and stuff. So probably most of my adult life from about 14 till about 30, 34 when I managed to get myself clean. The reason I did that was probably because I was getting arrested all of the time for shoplifting to feed my habit. So it wasn't a choice. I didn't want to be like that. I just didn't know how to get help in it, and it was sort of the police showed me how to get that help, otherwise I was going to go to prison. So that was what forced me really to go into recovery. So it took me a while to sort of get that stuff. I did rehab twice. I went into rehab the first time probably because everybody was on my back and I really didn't want to go to prison. So I went, but I had no idea what that meant and what it entailed. And I remember thinking that, well, what does abstinence mean? I'm not going to stop drinking. I haven't got a problem with alcohol. So I always intended to carry on doing that stuff, and I ended up using when I was in there, and I got kicked out, and my life was just 10 times worse than it had been before. I was then homeless, and like nobody wanted anything to do with me because they kind of like forgiven me as long as you go into rehab and sort your life out. But that when I was in there 3 or 4 months and I didn't do that and I come out worse, they kind of just washed the hands of me. And I think that was the turning point for me, that if I don't sort this out, this is going to be my life. And then I realised that, maybe I can't drink. And then I started to work the steps and realised that alcohol has always been a massive problem, because every time I'd had a drink, it took me to using drugs and then worse. So that was when I realised that it was me that I had to put the work in and do something about it. I think the first time I thought somebody was going to miraculously come and save me and remove this from me. I didn't realise till that time that I actually had to put some work in and do something about it. I had a lady who used to work with me. She worked for the DIP team at the time, and we were really good friends today. And I'm really grateful that she didn't give up on me. She would come and find me, and she would always keep me motivated. Nobody had been nice to me for a long time. And this woman, she came into my home and she was really nice, and I listened to her. I mean, I still did stuff wrong because I was a using addict, but I did listen to her, and she never gave up, and that was the main thing. Even when I'd done something bad, she would be like, it's okay, it's not the end of the world. And I try and work like that as a worker, but I think doing this job, I see people come through the door that were exactly like I was, 9 years ago. And I just love doing this stuff. I love to see people put their lives back together and move on. And I've seen some people do some wonderful stuff with the life. It really is. It doesn't feel like work to me. It's something I would gladly do for free. It doesn't feel like work. So, not so much with Recovery Connections, but I have in the past. It's a massive barrier to some people, and they're scared of what friends will think, what family will think. And the reality is that most of them people know anyway. They can see that people's got some issues going on, even if they don't say it to people's faces. They definitely do see it. So I used to think I could hide stuff, and I couldn't really. I would go and speak to people afterwards and say, I was in a wreck, and they'd be like, I know, I'm really pleased that you sorted yourself out. But I think a lot of people are in that much denial about their own use that they think other people can't see that stuff. And what I do see is that the majority of people just want to see people do well and put their life back together.